Hello everybody, King Nanny Reviews here, and today we're going to be listing up every single Trigetsu match that happened in the series. Now the matches that we'll exclude will be like the training matches, some backstory matches that didn't really matter to rankings and stuff like that. But the matches that we'll include pretty much will be the matches that matter towards rankings, on screen or off screen. And yeah, just important matches that kind of matter. So I'm going to list like everything. So if you do enjoy the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get right to it.
Everybody get your fucking hands up.
Alright, for our first match, we'll be starting off with Rei versus Kouda. Kouda is his adopted father, and Chapter 1 starts off with them facing off. In hindsight, this match is pretty important because it pretty much establishes Rei's guilt he feels for kind of blaming himself for ruining the Kouda family, and also now going to ruin Kouda's professional Shogi life, because even losing one match in Shogi is a pretty big deal. So Rei, that match kind of established that guilty feeling. So yeah, pretty important match. Second match we get is Rei versus Issa. Now this match isn't really much, they just kind of play, and then it just introduces some of Rei's Shogi friends. That's pretty much all the match was there to do. We also get Smith in the background, so we get introduced to Issa and Smith, his Shogi buddies, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Third match we get Kid Rei versus Kid Nikaido. Now, I said I wouldn't really include like these backstory matches, but they do still do tournaments for kids, and then Kid Rei and Kid Nikaido were kind of going in. So Rei won that, and that match showed Nikaido his like gusto and him basically his will not to lose despite his condition. So it was a great way to kind of introduce Nikaido as this like he's always striving for like the best he can be, even while nerfed health wise. And then we move on to the real Rei versus Nikaido in present time, and again Rei wins, but Nikaido doesn't give up, and Rei is just like he was back then. Nikaido's still coming on with fierce energy. They both don't want to lose, and it established the rivalry they have. So that's pretty much what those two matches were for. Next, we move on to Rei versus just some guy on TV. I'll put this in there because this match, of course, down the line really helps Rei win a big match. And the reason why this match was kind of important was because Nikaido stepped up to the plate as his rival best friend and really gave Rei some solid advice. And this is a good way to show that this rivalry isn't just Rei just beating Nikaido all the time, but Nikaido's also bringing stuff to the table to help out Rei as well. So that unnamed dude on TV, shout out you for kind of whooping Rei and making Nikaido have that great moment. Next, we get Rei versus Matsunaga. This is just some old guy that he beat way back in the day. He actually makes an appearance way later too, which I was surprised. But this match, nothing too crazy, but it did have a pretty good theme about, pretty much a theme that can only work with such an old character. And it was just showing that how complicated and complex Shogi feelings could be when it comes to someone that dedicated their whole life to the sport and still like kind of declining. So a match, not too bad. I liked it. Then we'll move on to Rei versus Yasui, or Yasui. And this match had a great moment for Rei towards the end, where Yasui pretty much had what Rei wanted, nice family, stuff like that, but he's kind of throwing it away, and he's not even taking Shogi seriously. So Rei's put in this situation like, wow, like you can still win like the match, but you gave up too quickly, and then you're also not putting enough effort into your family. So, and then you want to blame me for beating you, So I kind of like the message towards the end of that match that that Rei kind of brought. So that match, not too bad. Then we have Rei versus Tsuji, and this match wasn't nothing crazy. Rei ends up beating Tsuji, and of course Tsuji's pretty good, so he made Rei work for it. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Shout out to Tsuji though. I really do like Tsuji. Then we have Smith versus Yokomizu. Again, this match is nothing too crazy. They just play, Smith wins, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Smith is kind of good at Shogi. That's pretty much what better get out of that. Then we have Smith versus Gotou. Now this is probably Smith's best match, and Smith, we got more insight to Smith's playstyle, how he wants to be flexible, move around, And of course, we now establish that Gotou is better than, Smith and probably Yokomizu and them like that. So Gotou's on a different level, and Gotou also gives some solid advice. So even though at this moment I really didn't like Gotou, I still could respect how good he was at Shogi, and he's pretty knowledgeable at the game. Then we get Rei versus Shimada. And of course, this is one of the best matches when it comes to Rei's character and what they did for it. Major turning point for his character. And Rei kind of didn't take things too seriously. He was too blinded by Gotou to really focus on what Shimada brought to the table. And of course, after the match, he got introduced to the Shimada fan club with Nikaido, and I forgot the guy's name, but the three of them, love Shimada, and those three, they all help push, the Shogi up another level because of it. So that match is really good. Then we get Shimada versus Gotou. This match was good too, even though we really didn't see much on screen. Just the fact that two very experienced and talented guys were just going at each other, and Shimada ends up winning was a surprise to me, because I thought Gotou ended up winning. But yeah, Shimada, he ends up winning, and like I said, I was really surprised. Shout out Shimada, that guy's good. Then we get Nikaido versus some unnamed dude, and I only put this in here because Nikaido ranked up after beating him. So even if we don't know who he is, ranking up is a big deal in this, Shogi game. So yeah, pretty much it. Then we get Shimada versus Souya. This is a big match for Shimada because we get a lot of his backstory, his motivations, why he's doing this. And it's honestly really powerful. Like, one of my favorite matches in the series, easily. So, Shimada versus Souya, good. And Umino is kind of messed up for not making... Like, he could still lose and still reach game 6 like he wanted and reach his hometown, but not 4-0. Like, Souya is great at this game. We all know this, though. Then we move on to Kumakura versus Souya. And then Kumakura brings Souya to game 7. And if Kumakura actually won this match, he would have been, like, the Maijin, or at least, like, up there when it comes to the Shogi world. So the fact that Souya was pushed to a game 7 showed Kumakura was really built different. Like, up there. And we still need a Kumakura arc. Like, I'm patiently waiting. But yeah, that match was great. Another one of my personal faves. Alright, then after that, we get Rei versus just some random person. And he ends up beating Rei. And then Rei gets very frustrated because this is during the bully arc, and he's trying to win as much as he can for Hina and stuff like that. And I put this match in there because this helps spark Rei's love or passion for his dynamic with Nikaido. Now Rei is using Nikaido as like a means to become better. And it used to be only the opposite. Nikaido come to Rei, but now Rei's coming to him. So even though we don't know this guy that beat Rei, the fact that, he made Rei, or at least the circumstances made Rei, kind of seek Nikaido out, is pretty good for Rei's character. Help him take an extra step. Then we get Rei in the Newcomers tourney. And then the Newcomers tourney, he won like his first like 2 matches. He don't know who they were, but he's winning these matches. So, that's a good thing. Because he does end up winning the whole tournament. So, I just put those in there. And then we get Rei versus Hachiha. And they were supposed to be some kind of like parallel to each other. They're both like, think the world revolves around them, yada. Match wasn't anything crazy, but, Rei ends up beating him and then advancing to the finals. Then we get Yamazaki versus Nikaido. And this is also one of the better matches Nikaido had. Nikaido, even though he lost, he didn't lose because he was just worse. His health was a major reason why he lost. When Rei was looking through the records, he noticed that Yamazaki was kind of stalling the match until Nikaido's health was the reason why Nikaido lost. Even though Yamazaki could still do like certain moves that would end the match and even make him win, but he wanted to win through like Nikaido's health problem. And Nikaido wasn't even tripping like that. Like, he smiled on his face, he was still playing. I'm pretty sure he thought that was still a decent way to try and win. He didn't feel cheated, nothing like that. So, pretty good way to kind of establish, Nikaido and Yamazaki in that context. And then we get Rei versus Yamazaki. And like I mentioned with the TV, thanks to Nikaido's advice, Rei ends up having a cool head, calming down, and the Rei ends up beating Yamazaki and becoming the Newcomers champion. And of course, it's a big deal because he did promise Hina he would do it, and then this ends up leading to a lot of positive scenarios outside of Shogi. So this one was a good match. And of course, we get the Yamazaki backstory it was just a chapter, but it was one of my favorite backstories. It was really good. I like the message of him, the saying of, you know, trying hard and getting the results, and the things with his bird, you know, like the pigeon racing, all that was pretty good. Then we get Sakurai versus Shimada. Now, like Gotou was mentioning earlier, Shimada, people were saying Shimada fell off, yada yada. He said, bro, Shimada just gonna come back and start hitting again. And then Shimada versus Sakurai. And Sakurai is really good too. And Shimada barely did it, but he still won. And then now he advanced to another title match. So Shimada in these title matches, they got a lot of chemistry going on. So I still need my boy to get his title. But that was a good match. Then we get a exhibition match of Rei versus Souya. Of course, Souya is one of the best in the game, and there's a lot of parallels between Rei and Souya. So them facing off was just a treat. You know, we got to see a lot, and we got more insight on, you know, who Souya was as a person and his disease and all that. So that match is pretty good. Then we get Nikaido versus Aono. Nikaido was sick, people worrying about him, and then Aono comes up. Aono is pretty good because he's 8th Dan, and then Nikaido just smokes him. So that was just there to pretty much show that Nikaido isn't like, he's still not down in the dumps. He's still keeping a positive head, stuff like that. So not a crazy match at all, but it was just, you know, like I said, there to just show that Nikaido's still not at this game and he's keeping his head up. Then we get Shimada versus Yanagihara, which is a lot of people's favorite match. You know, burnt fields, amazing arc, and I just love the story behind Yanagihara. One of my personal faves, as you can tell. And we get Kouda versus some unnamed dude. And I put this in here because Kouda beating that unnamed dude made him stay in his rank. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Rei had this guilt that he not only ruined the Kouda family, but he's also on his way to ruin the dad's Shogi career by just beating him, you know. But because the dad beat this random dude, he stayed in his rank, and then now Rei can't blame himself. Like, if the dad got demoted, Rei be like, because he lost to me, he got demoted. But now the dad was good enough to stay in his rank, so Rei can't blame himself. And then of course that led to, you know, them having just a nice father and son moment towards the end of the chapter. So not too bad, you know, not too bad. Of course the match itself wasn't crazy, but what it did for the relationship, it was pretty good. Then we get Yokomizu versus Namerikawa. Now, Namerikawa is a very interesting character because he's just a unique kind of weird guy. And then the way he, like his mentality, the way he thinks, it's pretty weird, but in a good way. You know, you don't really see characters like this almost ever. So, it was kind of interesting getting, you know, that side of him. And we also learned that he also played Smith. You know, Smith also played Namerikawa back in the day. And after they both lost to Namerikawa, they started, you know, being in a slump. Like, Smith started stagnating, and Yokomizu obviously fell down the rank. Then we go to Dobashi versus Souya. This is one of my personal favorites. They also played as kids too. But, yeah, Dobashi versus Souya, that was a great match. This was the same tournament that Kumakura played Souya in, but now it's Dobashi. And then we learned that Dobashi is pretty much an evolved Shimada. As in, like, when it comes to hard work and research, that's all him. You know, everything he has right now is just research. And the ending of this match, also, Souya ends up winning. But the ending of this match led a new relationship between Souya and Dobashi again. Now they become training partners to open even more doors together. So, pretty good match. And I do love Dobashi. I think it's really good. Then we get, again, Rei versus Hachiha. Again, this is just a match. Just, you know, Rei beat him. But this match wasn't anything crazy, not too much at stake. But Rei winning this made him, like, miss a field trip. And then that was just, like, I guess that was, like, the joke. But, yeah, nothing crazy in that match, nothing crazy. Then we got Dobashi versus Rei. And Rei surprisingly beat him. I was like, wow, Rei is really good at Shogi. But, yeah, Dobashi, we end up getting some insight on him. End up getting, you know, some cool panels about how he was as a kid, swimming and all that. And Dobashi kept his head up, you know, so I can see why he's at the top of the game. Then we get Rei versus Raidou. And Raidou, he's a pretty, he invades your bubble a lot. You know, a lot of people like Raidou. I won't say he's a top fave, but he's cool. And yeah, that match, Rei was dealing with like the father problems that he and them was going through, so he wanted to rush the match. And that just introduced, Raidou as a person. Even though he was introduced before, we now see Raidou in that match, and that really gave some insight on just who he really was. Next, we get Rei versus Doi, and this match pretty much did nothing. It didn't even have to be here, but he beat him. Rei beat him, so that was cool. But yeah, I mean, that match, like I said, didn't really do much for anybody. But Rei was in a rush, beat him quickly, kept him moving. That's pretty much all we have to know. Then we move on to Raidou versus Dobashi. Now, this was a really good match. The theme behind Raidou's problems and then him fighting to remain the champion, or the Kiryu, champion. That was pretty good. I have people that have this as their fave match. But yeah, the paneling was good. I love, the spreads. And of course, this was to kind of contrast what the Kawamotos just went through with their father. Because at the end of this match, Raidou versus Dobashi, we had his wife kind of save their family through love alone. Because Raidou was kind of messing up here and there. But, wife pulled up, said, I love you, and we're going to make this work by any means. And then that ended up saving their family. Whereas with the Kawamotos, they cut their father off instead of, doing that. Of course, they had every right to. I'm not saying they should have gone a different route, but that made them kind of think like, wow, not like when families have like big issues, we kind of solved our issues by cutting them off, and then they solved theirs by, bringing them back. So they're just kind of like, oh, did we do the right thing? It was kind of like a bittersweet situation. Umino was wild for putting this right after the father arc. Like, she got no chill. But yeah, that match was really good. Then we get Rei versus Namerikawa. And this match was really good because the images and then the imagery Umino had was wow. And then Namerikawa, like I said, pretty weird guy. But he gives, like, he can entertain when it comes to just him playing shogi, how he plays and stuff like that. So pretty cool match. All right, here is the iffy part. Now we enter this tournament. It's basically a Nikaido focused tournament, so his matches are the only things that matter. But of course, some people might want to know how the other matches went, even though we only know the endings for like the first round. So I'll only name those. But yeah, when it comes to the first round, Souya fought Tanaka. Surprise, surprise, Souya won. Shimada fought this guy named Shinobu. Shimada won. Kiriyama fought Tsuji, and Kiriyama got washed. Like, it was good Tsuji, I'm saying. Because there's normal Tsuji, then there's good Tsuji. And, yeah, Kiriyama stood no chance. And then they even mentioned that off-screen, Tsuji smoked Souya as good Tsuji. Like, even Souya couldn't stop this guy. And I'm just like, this is a big deal. Like, this is literally the top one shogi god of the series, Souya. And Tsuji smoked him as good Tsuji. So, I definitely want, like, another kind of Tsuji-centered arc, like maybe a backstory or something to just kind of give some insight on Tsuji. Then Gotou fought some guy named Kubota. Now this is weird because on paper it said Kubota won, but in round 2 we see Gotou there, not Kubota. So it's just like, so clearly Gotou won, like he's in round 2 playing a shogi match. We see him. But the paper said Kubota won. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter at all. Like, at all. So, I'm going to just keep it moving. Then Raidou fought some guy named Tokudomesi. And Raidou won. And then Dobashi fought some guy named Iwakami. And then Dobashi won. So, pretty much everyone that we knew and cared for won their matches. They're good at shogi. Like, we all knew this, but I just threw that in there. But yeah, back to the main highlight, Nikaido. Now, Nikaido fought Gakuto. Now, Gakuto is really, really good. I'm talking really, really good. Nikaido prepared, and he's been playing shogi and research all his life. And literally 2 days before he fought Gakuto, he was not ready to beat him. It was the day before when his dog Elizabeth gave him that paper. And then with that paper, he ended up finding out a new technique. So, like, he gained new knowledge the night before. And then that new knowledge was the reason why he won. So, if he fought him that day, or if he fought him, 2 days before, he probably would have lost. So Nikaido, as we know, he keeps evolving, he keeps improving. So that match with Gakuto was really, really good. Nikaido was just sliding. Then we get Nikaido versus Souya. One of the best matches in the series, easily. Now, Nikaido versus Souya. Nikaido's peak, his potential is so high. You can even argue it's higher than Rei's because they both fought Souya and Nikaido did way better. And Nikaido, it was just great to see. You know, Nikaido was just slide. Everyone in the room was jealous of just how much of a good match he was giving Souya. It reached a point that Souya was almost getting his hearing back. Like, that's how good it was. So I loved it. And like, Nikaido was like, he was really winning. And then he ends up passing out because of his sickness. And I was low-key about to get mad if the only reason why he lost was because of his sickness. But Umino ends up confirming that he would have lost anyway. But of course, him being sick made them lose like that good game or that good streak they were having. But yeah, that match was still really good. You know, and then Souya ends up winning the whole tournament. So we don't really know who won the round 2 matches, but it doesn't matter. Souya won in the end anyway. So then we move on to Rei's Shogi group, you know, of the teachers. These guys aren't even like professional Shogi players, but they're still ranked. And then they ended up winning the first 2 matches, so they only needed to win one more to get rank B, which was their goal. And then they ended up playing the team that they needed in round 3 to win, and then they ended up winning. So now they're all officially ranked B. Rei teaching them and all that all came to fruition. That wasn't useless, yada. That's pretty much what that match was there to show. You know, the people in Rei's Shogi Club, Rei as a teacher or as a sensei in Shogi, helped them, made them good enough to, you know, win and achieve their Shogi dreams. So pretty much it. You know, it's not like we should care about these guys playing Shogi, but it was cool. I never get Nobidome, which he was like the youngest before Rei and Nikaido. And then we see off screen, or at least back in the day, Nikaido was the first to beat Nobidome to kind of make him lose his like win streak or like the young genius. And then Kiriyama's just fighting him now, and Kiriyama ends up winning. But this match was pretty important because it introduced this idea that Kiriyama isn't the underdog anymore. Like, he's reaching a point where his research, like him researching the opponent and him researching Shogi in general, can't, I won't say carry him anymore, but it reached a point where he doesn't have the answers to like the moves through his research alone. So he's always in new territory now. And then he's like, and that's when he realized his 3 weaknesses. One was that the higher he goes, the more he'll fight better players. He'll fight the Shimadas, the Yanagiharas, the Dobashi, stuff like that, over and over again. So he will end up losing more the better players he fights. 2, they're going to be researching him more, because as an underdog, people are not going to waste the time researching you. But the higher you get, the more research they're going to put on you because you're way more threat. And 3, he says his own weakness, which we find out later. He's talking about Hina and his like social life outside of Shogi. But yeah, like that match, pretty good. I like the themes and I like the messages. Then we get Rei versus Tanaka. Now, Tanaka jumped so high up my list from this match. Like, he's such a real one. As a husband and as a father, he has done so much for his family. It's crazy. And, of course, the match itself, he's really good. You know, he ended up having Rei in that, like, pitch back room we was talking about the match before way quicker than Tobidome. And, of course, Tanaka is Nobidome's sensei or master or whatever, so makes sense. And yeah, Tanaka really pushed Rei. Rei still ends up winning though. But like I said, I like the message of that match. Kiriyama thought he was really dealing with life issues, but when he compared himself to Tanaka, what Tanaka was dealing with, trying to manage his family, manage his wife's career and his career without dropping ranks, he was like, wow, the weight I had, I thought I was struggling. But this guy, he has been struggling. But like I said, now Tanaka's kid's in college and now he's ready for smoke. So shout out to Tanaka. I really like him. So that match is good. One of my faves. And then we move on to Rei versus some random dude. And he just gets smoked. You know, like no name. He just loses. He beats all these great guys, but loses to this guy that we don't know. So I'm like, damn. Of course, losing to him makes the way, like the path to him getting promoted way harder. Then we get Souya versus Kumakura again, and then it's still game 7. Souya was about to sweep him, then Kumakura's like brought it back to a tie, and then now they still have to play game 7. We don't know how that ended up. I don't know if we will know how that ended up, but yeah. Souya versus Kumakura, that happened. Like I said, still pending. There's no winner for it yet. And then finally, in the recent chapters, we get Shigeta versus Nikaido. And we get this a lot in the little Shimada fan club. You know, they're always, you know, static rook, moving rook, or whatever. Like, they're always doing that. And Nikaido ends up winning. Surprise, surprise. So, yeah, and currently they're in this big tourney. And I really wonder how that's going to turn out. I really do. But, yeah, so that's pretty much all the shogi matches in Togatsu. Pretty straightforward. If you did enjoy yourself, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss my uploads. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed, man. I really do. Took me a while to make this, but it was fun. This is for my people that don't want to reread. You know, I know it's a pain. So, nice little summary. And yeah, that's about it, y'all. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch y'all later.